Hello everybody, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as the INEOS fire sale continues. More cuts, Dan Ashworth won't be replaced and everybody is available for transfer, not just Marcus Rashford. Well, you know, it's starting to feel like a fire sale. It's starting to feel like somebody that comes into a business that's struggling, strips its assets to the bare bone, makes money, and then starts again. Interesting times at Manchester United as more stuff come out. Disgruntled members of staff been told that their jobs could be on the line again, despite jobs being cut only 3 months ago. Discussions that Barada and Wilcox will just take on Ashworth's duties, cutting money again. And talks of Martinez, Dalot, Rashford and a load of others being for sale. In fact, the line is that maybe only 3 or 4 first team players would be safe from an offer. And this replicates what we heard in May, that everybody's for sale, bar 4 or 5 players. So why is that? Is it now going to, potentially derail anything that Amrim wants to do? If Amrim says, I want to use someone like Martinez, and Manchester United say, well, we've got an offer we want to accept, who stops that from happening? So, interesting times. Patrick Lynch says, I thought the sales happened after Christmas. Well, we're going to get into all of this. Lots to discuss on the show tonight. But as we said, we are sponsored by Boohoo Man, and we've got a bit of Man United trivia for you as well. But don't forget, with Boohoo Man, you can get your clothes delivered to your door with a 10% discount by using that code Goldbridge. But they will have discounts across the website where you can use, if there's 60% off, you can put Goldbridge there as well, and it will give you that extra 10% off as well. So check it out through the link in the description or scan the QR code. They've got everything covered for you, from underwear to gym wear, five-a-side wear, jumpers, hoodies, coats, the lot, delivered to your door. So get yourself some stuff from Boohoo Man today, delivered to your door, and obviously you can get that discount of extra 10% as well, even if it's a discounted item. So thank you very much to Boohoo Man, but this is a bit of a trivia for you as well to get us started. I was born on the 21st of January 1975. I started my professional football career with Man United in 1992. I won 6 Premier League titles, 3 FA Cups, 4 Community Shields, the Champions League and the Intercontinental Cup while at United. I moved to Newcastle in 2004 before going on loan to Birmingham City in 2005. I earned 39 caps for England throughout my career. I recently stepped down as chief executive of Salford City. There's no but about it. Of course, it is Nicky Butt. Thank you everyone who got involved in that, and a big thank you to Boohoo Man as always. Don't forget the link in the description or scan that QR code and get yourself that exclusive discount with Boohoo Man. Right, let's fire into the show, and fire into the show is exactly what we are going to do. So, numerous reports coming in this afternoon involving INEOS again. Man United haven't commented on this, by the way, so read into that what you would like. They didn't comment on it back in May either. Remember, there was multiple stories. I think the Telegraph reported it. I think the BBC reported it. It was last May, and a story came out that everybody had their price. Basically, everybody was for sale, bar 4 or 5 players. And I think those 4 or 5 players were people like Mainu, Garnacho, maybe Rasmus, Bruno, maybe Dalot. Some of those players aren't on that list anymore, but there is 4 or 5 players that United apparently wouldn't be looking to sell, but they would be listening to offers for everybody else. I mean, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I think it's a good thing if it's a player that you would like to go, but I think Linda says, stop exploiting the loyalty, stop the greed, INEOS time to go. I mean, bloody hell, that's a big message from Linda to start off with. But I don't think a fire sale is a good sale. I think if you have a list of players that you want to get rid of because you've spoken to the manager and you don't think they're good enough, I think that's great. But I think a fire sale is, Real Madrid have just knocked on the door. They'll give us 35 million for Martinez. He's been here in 2.5 years. We bought him for 45. There's we get our money back there and it's money into the club. We want to do the deal, Ruben. And Ruben Amorim goes, I actually like Martinez. I sort of want him as part of the club. And the club go, well, no, we think this is a good deal. We want to do it. Well, that's not good, is it? Those sort of deals are not good deals if they're part of the plans of the manager. But if INEOS are going to be doing a fire sale, that's sort of what you do. If you do a fire sale on Christmas Eve because you want to raise money for Christmas dinner and someone offers you 20 quid for your TV, you're not watching telly on Christmas Day because you'll take the 20 quid. And that's what a fire sale is. It's not a sale of people that you want to get rid of. It's a sale of people that you can get money for, i.e. Delo, Martinez. All these people, apparently, if the price is met, INEOS would consider selling them. So I think this is quite worrying. I think it genuinely is quite worrying. I think when we heard it in May, we probably didn't realise the enormity of it because we didn't have the evidence to back it up. I remember reacting to this in May and it was sort of like, oh, they mean business. They're ruthless. They'll get rid of anybody. But now I'm thinking they mean business. They need to raise money. They'll get rid of anybody. And it feels just like everything is about saving money. I mean, look, this came out from Chris Wheeler this afternoon. Another cost-cutting measure put in place by Sir Jim Radcliffe and INEOS is reducing staff's annual bonus from £100 to £40. I mean, that minuscule. I mean, how many members of staff have Man United got that they're going to save £60 off each of them? I mean, if you've got 10 staff, that's £600. If you've got 100 staff, that's £6,000. But, you know, it's not millions, it's thousands. And you're paying players millions a month. So I don't get that. I just don't get why at Christmas time you would reduce a bonus from 100 to 40 to save money on ordinary working people who are already in fear of losing their job still and have seen colleagues lose their job. They're now getting their Christmas bonus of £100 reduced to £40 so the club can save money. And it's worrying. It's really worrying that £60 across a few hundred people is a priority to this ownership. How bad are things? Because that's thousands of pounds you're going to save. It's not tens of thousands, it's not hundreds of thousands, and it's not millions. You know, it's a goodwill gesture to piss all your staff off for a few £1,000s. And you are literally giving Casemiro £350,000 a week. So it's just weird. Really weird. And Chris Wheeler goes on to say, recent cost-cutting measures such as cancelling the staff Christmas party and reduction in bonuses has left some employees disgruntled. One member says it's worse now, with another saying at least the Glazers prioritise families. Well, bloody hell. When you talk about the Glazers being better and treating staff better, then you're really in trouble, aren't you? But I think this feeds more importantly to what does this mean for Amorim? Not more importantly, obviously, people who are on the breadline, you know, ordinary working people who've got families and mouths to feed, facing, you know, uncertain Christmases, because apparently that is going on as well. There's been more staff briefings, there's been more leaks coming out that INEOS have basically said that there will probably be more cuts in the new year. So if you work at Manchester United and you've seen colleagues getting the sack, you're not safe yourself. You might be getting the sack yourself because there's going to be another round of redundancies apparently. So it's terrifying that Man United under INEOS are so desperate to raise money that they see 60 quid as a way to save money instead of giving it to your staff at Christmas after what's been a difficult year. And remember, this is year one of INEOS. And then you feed that into transfers, and I don't know, I think if I was another club and I knew what Man United were doing and I liked a player, I'd be knocking on the door and going, you know, Delo, 40 million, you fancy it? Martinez, 35 million, do you fancy it? You know, play it. Not obviously, I don't think we're going to do it with a Mainu. I don't think we're going to do it with a player like that. But you might chance your arm with something, and INEOS might bite. So it's weird. It's really, really weird. It is quite worrying, actually, that some of the things that are going on, we've sort of brushed them under the carpet. I don't think, I mean, to be fair, as a community, we spoke about it. Other outlets didn't. Other newspapers really didn't. We were very big when they sacked 200 people. We were like, you know, whatever we talk about transfers, whatever we talk about INEOS cooking, that's 200 people who are not on massive wages, who that job is their job, and it won't be easy to get another job. And we spoke about that at the time and said, look, it's sort of being swept under the carpet, but a lot of people are losing their livelihood here. And I think a lot of people didn't really register with what that was. That was quite significant. And now we've seen the ticket prices, and now we're seeing the threat of more redundancies, and now we're hearing about fire sales. I think people are waking up to the fact that INEOS haven't even been here a year. And on the face of it, they look like an ownership that is stripping back the football club to the bare bones to raise money. And efficiency, absolutely fine. Efficiency is great. If you've got a bloated, greedy model, you need to trim it down, of course. But this looks like it's going beyond that. I mean, we saw Sir Alex Ferguson. I mean, at the time, I was sort of like, Sir Alex Ferguson's really old and deserves to retire and do what he wants. Some people were like, no, he's been sacked so they can save a couple of £1 million a year. And you sort of look at it again now and go, Sir Alex probably wasn't that bothered, but it still was a way for the club to save money. And there's some really ruthless stuff going on. And if that's going on in a playing way, I look at it and I go, well, this might not be easy to get back if we're going to start removing players that maybe you wouldn't normally get rid of, but they could raise some money. So it's going to be really interesting. I think we're going to have to try and be successful on the cheap. And I think we may well be looking at a Brighton model, which is not a bad model, but even Brighton spend a bit of money. But also, we're Manchester United, we're not Brighton. So can we be a football club that brings, an unknown in and gives them 6 months to settle in? I mean, we saw what some of our fans did with Agate after what felt like 6 minutes. He had a horrible name and was being called a flop by our own fans. So I don't think the patience is there for it. So I think it's going to be really, really interesting. Just on Martinez, by the way, that was one of the players that's been mentioned today that because Real Madrid had apparently been linked to him, that United would be willing to listen to offers for if a serious offer came in. I don't know. I don't know what I think about that. To me, I do know what I think about it. He's 26. He's 27 in a month. He seems to have gone from 24 to 27 very quickly because obviously he missed a year of injury. 27 in January. He is moving on a little bit, but 27's not old. He's younger than Marcus Rashford. So I think that with Martinez, he is not the sort of player that I would be thinking would be a player that Man United would be looking to move on. However, what I'm going to say is that if an offer came in and Amorim wanted to accept it, then of course you would do that. But that can be the only circumstances. What I don't want is people knocking on the door knowing that we're desperate for money and INEOS having to sell people because it's a way of raising money. I mean, look, the way INEOS are acting, they want to take £60 off every Man United employee to reduce their Christmas bonus. £60. If someone knocks at the door and says, there's 40 million for a player that you weren't thinking of selling, what do you think's going to happen if someone comes in with a £40 million offer for Martinez if they want to take 60 quid off an employee? That 40 million is going to look very, very appetising. So, look, we could get a few shocks like that. We were talking about Marcus Rashford at 2 o'clock. We're now talking again about what was being said in May and is now being said again today. And United haven't commented on this. United have been asked for comment on this. And they are saying we don't comment on who's for sale or anything like that. We're focused on the next game, which is their right. But nobody at United's coming out and saying nobody's for sale, Rashford's not for sale, because we've had this before. The funny thing is, in May, the same thing came out. So it's obviously true. Everybody's got a price. The funny thing was, in the summer, nobody bloody paid the price, did they? Wan-Bissaka and McTominay, to be fair, but nobody came and paid the price for Casemiro. Nobody came and paid the price for Maguire or for Rashford or for Bruno or for anybody else. As much as Bruno was apparently, being of interest to Bayern Munich, they never came up with the money, did they? Nobody ever came in with an offer. So, look, everybody probably has got a price at Manchester United because they want to raise money. I think if Saudi Arabia said, we'll give you £90 million for Bruno and he wanted to go, we'd let him go. And that's probably the best example I'm talking about a fire sale here. It feels like United would probably sell anybody if the price was right. And that's a weird way to sort of understand what the football club's doing. And I think that's a good example. Obviously, Bruno's not going anywhere. But if Bruno decided he'd be interested in Saudi, and he sort of mentioned it to his agent, and then Al Hilal come in and go, we will give you £90 million for Bruno Fernandes, even though he's the captain and a really important player for United, I think they would bite the hand off. And that's what I mean about everybody having a price. I think at the moment, we are not a football club that, 10, 20 years ago, if somebody came in and offered for Cristiano or for Paul Scholes, we would say no. You're not having them because they're massively important to us. Whereas now, I think everybody's got a price. And it's interesting that, Mainu and Garnacho and Rasmus and Yoro and a couple of others get mentioned as not being sellable. But you're telling me if Real Madrid came in and said, there's 90 million for Kobe Mainu, pure profit, they wouldn't take it. I think everybody's got a price at the moment. So yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? People want the club to sell all the players when they all go for sale. Now it's wrong, says Ricky. No, Ricky, this is what we were just speaking about a moment ago. It's not wrong to sell players, but I think it's wrong when everybody's for sale just because you want to raise money. You can't build a team on that. I agree with you that people moaning about sales, we do need sales, but not everybody should be for sale. Not everybody should have a price. Imagine if Liverpool said, yeah, we know we're trying to win the title, but if we get an offer for, Salah or Van Dijk or Robertson, we'll take it. Like, that's sort of what United are doing at the moment. The whole mentality of INEOS at the moment seems to be raise money by any means because this is a fire sale. And some people buy businesses and do that. Some people will buy, I don't know, PC World, and they'll go in and they won't spend money. They'll be like, right, let's get rid of all the stock. Let's get rid of everything. Let's raise money by getting rid of everything. And then when we've raised some money, we'll look at about whether we're going to buy some new stock or we're going to reduce or anything like that. I mean, some people will buy a big, massive business, sell as much of it as they can, and then downsize or sell it. You just don't know, do you? Rory says it'll be a good test of the players and Bruno as captain. Will they use their own cash to pay for a Christmas party and a relatively small bonus? Rory, you tell a good story and you are absolutely spot on. If I was a Man United player and I fancied a bit of, humility and, generosity, not PR, I would be going, how many members of staff have we got? 500? 60 quid each? Why would you not do that? You're milking the club dry anyway for money you don't deserve. Edward V, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. I know this isn't talked about, but I think we need to replace Bayinda and bring a better second in who can compete for first. I completely agree. Tony says, I'm convinced this is vanity project from INEOS and Sir Jim. Glazers are no longer the scapegoats, but we are beyond broke. We needed a full sale, says Tony. And Double D says they have gotten rid of everyone else in the club, i.e. staff, so why not get rid of the crap we have playing? Ask yourself the question, could it get any worse than this on the pitch? Thank you very much for that, Double D. Football or Soccer says, I would get rid of Garnacho, not good enough and has the wrong mentality. It's the Rashford saga happening all over again. Would be full profit too, says Football or Soccer. I don't really want to get into that. Suffice to say, it's your decision if you would sell any player. And thank you very much for your contribution. I just feel at the moment there is a weird agenda around Garnacho, where you're either team Garnacho or team Rashford. I've spoken about this at length. I don't understand it. I saw it with Bruno and Pogba. I liked both players. I don't know why we have to pitch our own players against each other. It's this new player FC phenomenon, and it's weird. It's really weird. I just don't understand it. I've even seen stuff on social media that Garnacho's leaking the team. I've told you, if he's leaking the team, he's not the one who's doing it mainly. And there's a couple of players doing it. So, and I know who they are. And I'm not shouting it out because it's not my business to do it. I'm not going to cause that shitstorm and be the snitch. But I know who's doing it, and it's not Garnacho. And you'd be quite shocked at who's doing it because it's not somebody you'd all be selling. Mark, if you were put up for sale, how much do you go for? Says Caxter. Probably a bag of Skittles. Mr. Frederico, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Sulai says, you're missing the point, Mark. Amrim saw the players firsthand. He definitely agree with it. We're emotional as fans, but these players are crap. I'm not missing the point at all. I think you're missing the point because I don't know what your point is. We're talking about INEOS. We're talking about raising money, and we're talking about every player being up for sale at the right price. You're telling me Amrim's come into the club after 2 weeks and said to INEOS, yeah, sell anybody. Of course he hasn't said that. It's a completely different thing. You're talking about Amrim. I'm talking about the owners. The owners are trying to raise money. They're taking bonuses off staff. They're cancelling parties. They're raising ticket prices. They're basically putting out there that every player's got a price. How can a manager operate and be successful under a regime that is literally looking to sell the ground beneath you if somebody offers them the money for it? So that's what I'm talking about. Amrim wants to build stability, consistency, and a future. INEOS just seem to be stripping everything back. We got the message wrong. It's short-term pain for the club and the fans. For the long-term financial gain of the owners, INEOS and Glazers out, says Brandon. They don't care about winning, only the balance sheet, says Parker. And the cynic in me says, I'll believe this when I see it. INEOS have proven over the last few days they are nothing if not unpredictable. Thank you very much for that, Patrick Lynch. Well, there is something else to announce as well. This is coming also from the Daily Mail, and it's coming in from Sami Mukbel, who is saying that Manchester United will not target a like-for-like replacement for Dan Ashworth, but are not ruling out making another executive appointment. Sources have indicated any new appointment would have a firm grasp of the transfer market and work with Favel. Omar Barada and Wilcox will split the majority of Ashworth's responsibility as part of a reshaping of each individual's hierarchical responsibilities. Favel will continue to lead recruitment work and will be assisted by Matt Hargreaves. So basically, those two paragraphs I can summarise like this. We're saving money and cost cutting. We're basically amalgamating 3 jobs into 2. So this big dream team of elite, best-in-class people has now been reduced, and people are having to take on further responsibilities. Weird. It's just really weird. It's just really weird what's going on at the club. Businessman continuing to drag us fans through the mud is criminal. Sir Jim is English, faced used to deliver for the Glazers. It's going to get worse, says Milverton. Are you doing any Champions League watch-alongs today, says Henry? Yes, I am doing Real Madrid, Atalanta and Leipzig Villa at 8 o'clock on That's Football. This isn't right, says Karan. INEOS need to build this team around a few players. Rest all should surely be up for sale. Rashford should be the first one to go, says Karan. And I feel that's a little harsh. Rather, they should sell of players as they've been so bad still. Look at Chelsea with lesser paid players, says Fahuni. And the problem with the fire sale is that all the good players go and they are left with dross, says Pete the Meat. I'm glad somebody understands what we're talking about here. I think some people are getting confused with everybody's up for sale and getting excited because they want to clear the deadwood, but are forgetting that what a fire sale is. Everybody's up for sale. And if you can't get offers in for the shit, you take the offers for the good. That's what a fire sale is. You've got to raise money and you will take that money however you can raise it. So if nobody bids for Rashford or Maguire or Casemiro or Shaw, you might sell Martinez and I'm trying to think of, we haven't got that many players, have we? Not Mesraoui because he's only just come in, but you know what I mean? It might be 2 players that you wouldn't sell and the deadwood stays. That's the danger of a fire sale. You're just raising money. You're not necessarily selling the deadwood because nobody might bid for them. How would that impact any rebuild? But as I said, look, specifically, if you want to talk about players that shouldn't be going before other players, i.e. Dalot, i.e. Martinez, if we're talking about them individually, would I let them go? I mean, I don't think anybody should be unsellable. I just don't think everybody should be up for sale just to raise money. I don't think anybody should. Look, ultimately, I'm from a generation that saw Sir Alex Ferguson sell David Beckham to Real Madrid because he fell out with him. I saw him sell Jaap Stam because he fell out with him. I saw him sell Van Nistelrooy because he fell out with him. So I've also seen Ronaldo go because he wants to go. But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes a player will go because they want to go. And there's not a lot you can do about it. But sometimes a player that you really like, Beckham, Stam, Van Nistelrooy, will suddenly be sold because the manager said so. And that is not something I'm opposed to. Like, to me, I wouldn't want to sell Martinez. But if Amorim decides, let's take the money, I'm not convinced, then I'm not against it, because that's a manager being allowed to do what a manager wants to do. There is a difference between that and INEOS saying we need to raise money, so we'll take any offer. That's scary. That's the same as sacking people, increasing ticket prices, knocking Old Trafford down to try and get funding to build a regeneration around it. All these things worry me because they're very mercenary, they're very business orientated. Football, I mean, I suppose that's the difference, isn't it? Are we a business or are we a football club? I think for 20 years we've been a business, and it feels like we're still a business. We're looking at people like their salary. We're not looking at what their job is. We're just looking at, can we get rid of them? Well, they do a good job. Can we get rid of them? Yeah, get rid of them. And on the footballing side, I don't mind getting rid of players if it comes from the manager, but I don't want to get rid of players just because an offer's come in and we need to raise money. And that's what the difference is between what some people are understanding and what people aren't. This is not a deadwood sale, it's a fire sale potentially, and that can lead to people leaving that you don't want to go. As long as we don't lose Mainu, realistically, will we be devastated? I love Garnacho, still believe in him, but will I be devastated? No, says Fuge. Mark, sending love from the bus home in Dublin. Sounds lovely, Kevin. For a Manchester lad, he doesn't care much for the good people that work hard for the club, says Kevin Donovan. That's a Jim Radcliffe, isn't it? The next 6 weeks will be interesting, says Gavin. Thank you very much, Gavin. And Patrick Lynch says, I'm not against selling anyone, but some are more priority sales than others. Better players should only be sold if it's of actual benefit to the team, says Patrick. Yeah, well, look, imagine if you... look, we can do this, right? So imagine the scenario where Man United get 2 offers that come in for Lisandro Martinez and Dalot, and it's 80 million for the pair, and United do the deal. So Dalot and Martinez go for 80 million pounds, and that 80 million comes in, and a lot of that will be pure profit because of the contract, you know, how long they've been at the club, especially Dalot. His fee was quite small and he's been here for years, so the amortization is gone, so it'll be pure profit. And Martinez, you know, 2.5 years, I don't know how that would work, to be fair. But we get 80 million pounds for Martinez and Dalot. You get 80 million pounds, but they have to be replaced because they're first team players. And then you've got 80 million pounds, but oh, look at Carrington. Casemiro's still here. Anthony's still here. Luke Shaw's still here. That's the problem, isn't it? You might think 80 million pounds for Dalot and Martinez is a great way to raise money. But then you're still going to be paying £2 million a week to players that are shit. And £2 million a week. We had £2 million in wages on our bench against Forest. Not even starting. £2 million a week. That's £8 million a month. That's £96 million a year. So the £80 million you've just got for Martinez and Dalot doesn't even cover the wages of the shit that you don't pick in a year. So this is what I mean. A fire sale might give you a little bit of money in the short term, but the longer term, you're draining yourself. I don't think people realise how much we're paying in wages a week for players that aren't actually playing for us or aren't part of our future. I mean, look at it. Look at it like this. You've got Casemiro on 350. You've got Rashford on 300. You've got Eriksen on 150. You've got Maguire's on 200. You've got Luke Shaw on about 170. Lindelof's on about 100. Mount's on 250. I mean, you're talking like, I've gone past 2 million already, haven't I? A week. Man United are spunking about £100 million a year on wages for players that they don't need or aren't good enough. And we're potentially going to go, oh, we've just got 40 million for Dalot. It's not the way to do it. The real money is in getting rid of the deadwoods and removing their wages, because that will raise you 50, 60, 70, 80 million a year. Just reducing their wages. And that's the hidden cost of Man United that people don't want to talk about. Add up the wages of the players you'd sell, and in a year, you've just raised 50, 60, 70 million quid. That's the way to do it. The next 6 weeks will be interesting, says Gavin, thank you. All day it's INEOS this, INEOS that. They are a screen for the Glazers, not one mention of the Glazers. Full sale was the only way to go. Glazers are sitting back watching INEOS take the slack. That's a great point by Double D, actually. I applaud that. Absolutely fantastic point, because you're absolutely spot on. We never talk about the Glazers, really, and they're still there. They still own half the football club. But the genius of what the Glazers have done, Double D, is nobody mentions them, and nobody knows what involvement they've got. It was Sir Jim Radcliffe who sacked Dan Ashworth. What was Joel Glazer doing? Playing golf. Joel Glazer has been involved in the daily running of Man United for 10 years. You're telling me Joel Glazer had no conversation, indication, knowledge of the sacking of Dan Ashworth, and yet no news outlet, including us, I'll put my hands up, actually went, I wonder if the Glazers had any involvement in this. And then you go, what am I talking about? I wonder if Joel Glazer had any involvement in this. He owns the fucking club. He owns over 50%. But nobody mentioned that. It's Sir Jim. It's ruthless Sir Jim who's got rid of Dan Ashworth. It's ruthless Sir Jim who's got rid of the Christmas party. I thought INEOS were in charge of the football side of things. You see how gullible and easy it is to play this fan base. INEOS are meant to only have control of the football side. Why are they sacking people? Why are they sacking communications people? Why are they sacking staff? Why are they cancelling Christmas parties? Why are they reducing Christmas bonuses? It's got nothing to do with the football side. Weird things are going on at that football club, and they don't make sense. INEOS only own 25%, and they're only meant to be running the football side with Joel Glazer. And yet they're sacking people, they're stopping bonuses, and they're increasing ticket prices. What's that got to do with the playing staff? Weird. There's weird stuff going on. And all while this is going on, apparently Joel Glazer's doing nothing. We don't know what's going on at Man United, do we? That's the truth. Also have to humble our expectations a bit with the price tags. I'll take 30 million for Rashford, 10 for Casemiro, the low 30, Shaw 10, etc. says Fuge. I mean, you do well to get 10 million for Luke Shaw. But I know what you mean. Yeah, sometimes... Look, I think the way the Glazers looked at it, when the Glazers had a player that needed to go, whether it was Rojo or whoever, they always looked at how much they paid for them, how much the wages were, and were like, well, we want our money back. And that's why it never got rid of them. What United need to do is they need to look at the best price they can get to break even. Profit, forget it. That's what the Glazers used to do with flops. They wanted a profit. Look at Alexis Sanchez. They were still trying to get a fair fee for him. The bottom line is, if you can break even, and what I mean by break even is you're going to lose money on what you paid, but if you can take, 30 million for Anthony and remove his wage, that's not too bad, is it? But you're never going to get your 80 back. You're never going to get it. How do you get rid of players on big long-term contracts that don't want to go without FFP, PSR implications, says Pete the Meat. You don't pick them and you loan them out, because if you do it too soon, it will kill you on the FFP. The best thing you can do is get rid of them and loan them out and take the win on reducing their salary a little bit, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all, because you're never going to get the fee, and if you kick them out early, it damages you for FFP. So you're going to have to keep them at the club, but the best thing to do is loan them out and take a bit of salary back from the club that's took them on loan. I doubt we're able to sell the Deadwood without dropping the transfer fees for the buying clubs to be able to account for their wages, and if we are still unable to sell them, we can't terminate the contracts because that would cost in excess of 200 million, says Mojo. Exactly. We can't just write off Anthony's contract because it will cost tens of millions of pounds and it will still hurt our FFP. So what you need to do with Anthony is either try and get the best fee you can, which is going to be impossible, or loan him off and get the club that's loaning him to pay you a loan fee and cover some of his wages. And at least that way, you're getting some money in and you're reducing the outlay over the next 18 months. Takes time. Okay, well, look, what a fantastic show tonight. Really, really enjoyed that. It's a shame it was a bit of an early one, but the reason for that is because we are doing the Champions League watch-alongs over on That's Football. So you can join me over there. I'm sure we can continue talking about a lot of this stuff as well. And of course, you're very welcome with me over there. So get yourself over onto That's Football. I will be live in about 5. Thanks for watching. Back on the morning show, of course, tomorrow. Lots for you to get your comments in there. Interesting times at United. And some of it's very worrying, I suppose, isn't it? Take care, everyone. I'll see you on That's Football in a minute.